What am I missing there, right?
Divine. Tasty. So delicious. So delicious.
Excuse me. All right.
Divine. Tasty. Soda Crush. Divine.
What's going on, mate? How are we? Oh, thanks for the likes. Thank you, thank you. Benny Hodge. Oh man, it's rough earlier. are up a little low. So I'm I think I saw you. Hello, what's going on? Post Malone, welcome back. Hello, hello. It is very toasty outside. I have the air conditioner on, thank fuck. So thanks for the heart as well, you legend. Thank you, my number one gifter. Much appreciated.
Soda Crush.
Beautiful outside. Perfect for the beach.
Juicy.
Perfect for the pub. Perfect for the outdoor hikes. Make sure you have your SPF 30 sunscreen on though, because the UV probably cuts straight through you. Yeah, mate. I would never condone encouraging people to get cancer. Make sure you have your sunscreen. Stay hydrated, please.
Tasty. Tasty. Soda Crush. Tasty. Juicy. Juicy.
That is so sick.
So delicious.
Toasty weather, chat. Very toasty weather today.
Juicy. Soda Crush. Divine. Soda Crush. Juicy. So delicious. Juicy. So delicious. So delicious. Juicy. Juicy. Tasty. Soda Crush.
Oh, thanks for the share, mate. You're enjoying the live.
Divine.
But I'm busy. I'm sorry, mate, but I just cannot make that happen. But feel free to join the chat, encourage some communication. Let's have a good old time in this toasty day. And if you want to see this gameplay, I'm live on Twitch.
Divine.
You know how it is, man.
So delicious. Juicy. Juicy. Divine. Juicy. Tasty. Tasty. Divine. Soda Crush. Divine.
Who's for this?
Juicy. Tasty. Juicy. 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 Divine. So delicious.
8 moves left. Sorry to get these. How am I gonna? How am I gonna? Might work.
Divine. Ooh.
Local asshole, what's going on, mate? And Bitcoin crash!
Tasty. Juicy. Tasty. Juicy. Juicy.
Could really do a good fade, right?
Tasty. Ooh.
Thanks for the likes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Juicy. 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 Juicy.
Going on 2 bag of Tom, how are we?
So delicious.
Waste of a freckle.
Divine. Tasty. Ooh.
Thanks for the share, man. Much appreciated. Show me what? Yeah. What? What's going on, Belle? Hello, welcome back. My style is going Are you doing Beauty and was it Beauty and the Geek, huh? Search up. Search up. Ooh.
Juicy.
Yeah, nose. Notes, welcome.
So delicious.
Combo right there. Ooh. Oh, cheers, ladies and gents. Let's keep it going. Let's get that momentum happening.
So delicious. Juicy.
It seems like the fish are really
Tasty.
effective in this. What was it in this level? But trying to actually make the best use of it.
Tasty.
Hey, Candy Crush ain't that easy.
So delicious.
Two and a half minutes left. Let's go. Let's get this. We got this. Ooh.
Tasty. Ooh.
Bessie the Goat, hello. Adrian, Tara, hello, hello. Jesse, what's going on? Hello. Congratulations, well played. Happy New Year. Right. Getting 3 stars on level 55 though. What the heck? Three stars on level 55. Oh. Mate.
Juicy. Juicy.
I feel so discriminated. I can't believe I lost that. Well, I can because I saw the result. I don't know, man. Seems like that repetition and cycle. I get alienated from society.
Tasty.
But there's no need to cry about it, mate. What is it? Don't get sad and stay faithful. Skin showcase and casual chat. Skin showcase, where did that come from?
Divine. Ooh. Okay, so if I'm leaning in, trying to optimize the moves that I'm going to be making.
Before this stylist makes contact to make this candy crush, it should be safe to assume getting 3 stars means making the most of each and every move in this, since it's very limited.
Tasty.
So just gotta lean in and prepare myself for pushing back. Double down
Juicy.
and keep the seal.
Tasty. Juicy. Juicy. Tasty. Juicy.
How's it going, Smooch? What's happening?
So delicious. Tasty. Divine. Juicy. Divine. Divine.
2 moves left. Oh, I have doubts here. I have doubts. Post Malone.
Divine. Ooh.
Okie dokie, time to read my architecture. Going back to business. Hello, Jay. Hello. Welcome back. Run over just overview and sequence to ensure engagement. Okay. Below is a single continuous loopable script that lays out the entire JolSol overview and sequence, designed so you can read it slowly out loud, restart it at any point, accumulate listeners without pressure, never drift into instruction, keep engagement through orientation, not excitement. I'm fantastic today, mate. How are you? This is not a pitch, it's a governed narrative loop. You can read this word for word if you want. JolSol sequence overview. Live, loopable, and engagement safe. Opening boundary. Nothing here is urgent. Nothing here is being sold. Nothing here needs to be understood quickly. And this is Joel, and Joel is about keeping things in order long enough for value to appear. Nothing is urgent. When you're looking to make a start in anything, when you feel this anticipation, there's this excitement for the future, you have a clear vision, and there's that goal that you're going for, but there's nothing there. It's like stating the starting line. How the heck are you going to make the starting line when you don't even know where it is? What is it? And that's up to you to decide. That's creativity. And it shouldn't be anything urgent. The starting line is always just there. You could be walking and you might, I don't know, go past an oval and you'll see, oh, okay, there's people who's going and starting a race. Cool, awesome. There's an entire event. Nothing urgent. You're just approaching the scenario and you can see it for what it is. So there's no urgency when it comes to opening and creating a boundary. Nothing here is being sold. This just stabilizes and it stabilizes the foundation of urgency. The level of urgency shouldn't really be apparent when it comes to opening boundary. And nothing here needs to be understood quickly either. You see it for what it is, and as you are the interpreter, it's up to you to decide what's going on. You could see people lining up ready to run. Okay, you got yourself a running race, and they're at that starting line. No pressure. It might not even be a running race. It could be something else. Who knows? But the depth as to what's happening, you can just find out later. So opening a boundary, nothing here is urgent, nothing here is being sold, and nothing here needs to be understood quickly. That's what it is. Yeah, no. That's why this is Joel. This is the start for an architecture. This is the start to foundation. I am the starting line. You are your own finish line. And that is the perks of JOLSOL and associating with it in the future. This guide, this sequence overview, JOLSOL sequence overview, as I said, it's in the title. You can keep it live, it's loopable, and it's engagement safe. So yeah, opening boundaries, nothing here is urgent, nothing here is being sold, and nothing here needs to be understood quickly. The context, the pre-context, who cares? You just rock it up. You're trying to figure out what it's all about. That's how you start a business. There's no urgency. Don't worry about it. Make it for what it is, create the starting line, and build the track. It's up to you. System intent. In my case, with it being JOLSOL, it has a system intent. Most things don't fail because they're bad ideas. They fail because they're done out of order. And this is like how the cookie crumbles, if you have heard that analogy. Naturally, if you're starting a business, most ideally you want to keep your infrastructure intact. And what I mean by infrastructure is the company overview of perception, or the business overview of perception, or you potentially as an influencer, how you perceive yourself as that sequence overview. Because obviously we're reliant on common sense, and obviously we have our patterns to recognize, to be able to understand what is going on next as like a point of reference, I guess, to expand from. But if you're starting a business, like JOLSOL, for example, where you're working with cryptocurrency, you can't just rely on your own humanity. You're going to need an infrastructure to resort to refer to. And what better way to find something to refer to for an online business connected to the Solana blockchain than having a JOLSOL sequence overview to resort back to. Whenever shit hits the fan, all you got to do is read these. You'll get the pre-context and you'll understand the story behind it from what you've experienced. The perks of system intent. So most things don't fail because they're bad ideas. They fail because they're done out of order. The moment you go out of order, it's just downhill from there. You're going to lose your business. JOLSOL exists to govern order of processing, not to teach tactics. You can ask me 1,000,001 questions, but I'm going to need the conversations to accumulate enough information to be able to actually give you quick answers like that. I can still do so if you are willing to allow me to understand by setting my processes to believe in so I can analyze, as well as analyzing my overview as to how I adaptively evaluated my reaction to believe in creating more processes so it can adjust to suit you guys. It's great difficulty. And if you're starting a system that is connected to cryptocurrency, it is very important to be able to set in concrete that you have your sequence overview. Because without it, you're relying on this, And when you're relying on this with cryptocurrency, you've lost stability. It's gone. Instability is made stable through order of processes. Order of processing is the definition as to what oversight with how a person adaptively evaluates their reactions to analyze their beliefs in order to adjust to their processes so they can continue their order of processing exactly how they believe is most ideal for themselves. System intent is very critical because most things don't fail because they're bad. They fail because they're done out of order. JOLSOL exists to govern order of processing, not to teach tactics. Those will be put in guides. Those will be put in your experiences. And whoever supports jolsol.com and decides to be part of that community of growth, you'll see this in example time and time again. It's not here to tell you what to do. It's here to stop things from breaking before they've earned speed. Because the moment you stop things from breaking, that is the exact moment of accumulating. The moment you can accumulate all that information. We've got business. We've got something to fucking rock and roll, mate. That is the perks of system intent, and that is the perks of being able to join JOLSOL. Next, sequence introduction without naming Fibonacci. So I'm going to be putting patterns aside in numeracy, and I've translated it into language. So we speak English. I'm going to try and make it so you understand in the Ingalay. Online. Anyways, so sequence introduction without naming Fibonacci. There's a natural order to how things actually work. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 is what I'm saying. What isn't said is still there. It's relatively self-explanatory, but I'm not going to go into that because that costs a lot. There's a natural order to how things actually work. It's not strategies, there's no hacks, and it's just order. If you respect that order, things compound quietly. Wink, wink. If you don't, they collapse loudly. Regardless, depending on who opposes or not, all of this context still applies to the sequence in hand, the sequence overview for JOLSOL. It'll still apply. And this is the importance of infrastructure. Because if you cannot answer the questions most correctly, you need something to resort to, or you will fail. The thing is, there are people who have expectations. Answer, 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 you know, it just ain't worth. So, process is very key. You have to understand the process. You have to be hopeful and you got to be willing. And it's all seen. It's all seen in this JOLSOL overview. It's seen in real life. Here's money, hope it will help. Everything starts with process. It's not certainty, it's not confidence, it's just direction and the will to move. Most people wait to understand before they begin. That's why they never begin. And it could be an absolute lie as well. A lot of people possibly can't wait to understand before they begin. And that's another way of messing it up when you're trying to make a starting line, because there shouldn't be anything to stress about. It's chill. You're making a starting line. You're starting at something, whether it be a brand, whether it be a business, whether it be a product itself, whether it just be yourself as an influencer. Perhaps you want to be a teacher. Perhaps you want to be a tradesman. Whatever it may be. Thank you. Welcome to the chat, Liam. Hello, hello. But yeah, it's very key. Everything starts with the process. Not certainty, not confidence, just direction and the will to move. Most people wait to understand before they begin. That's why they never begin. And when the process is repeated, this is consistency, and consistency is key to moving forward. Starting once doesn't prove anything, especially when you're trying to prove yourself to others. Returning does, though. Consistency isn't exciting, it's structural. This is me returning again, as an example. What am I reading? Oh, I'm reading, and this is an example of me reading my JOLSOL sequence overview. I've completely removed the Fibonacci pattern recognition. I've removed the numeracy, and I've translated it into English. And so yeah, everything starts by opening a boundary. Your system intent sets the direction to how you can oppose and follow. The sequence introduction without naming Fibonacci means that there's a natural order to how things actually work. It's not strategies, it's not hacks, just order. If you respect that order, things compound quietly. If you don't, they collapse loudly. 6, 7. But then they forget 4 and 9. So yeah, it's all about the process. But when the process is repeated, you access consistency. And when you're accessing consistency, you can figure out new structures over and over and over again. As long as you keep your foundation set, like this Joel Soul sequence overview, you will never be lost. You can only grow. And as long as your company grows with you, mate, the compounding of interest, exponential. But it requires faith. You need to believe. There's a phase where nothing happens. There's no feedback. There's no reassurance. Faith isn't a belief at this stage. It's staying anyway. Most people panic here and change things too early. And when there is change, there is consistency. And when there is consistency, there's a process to believe in. And when there's a process to believe in, someone is trying to cause an introduction. And if someone's causing an introduction, their system intent is reliant on the failure of out of order. So if you're opening a boundary, there is nothing here to be urgent about. There's nothing being sold, and nothing here needs to be understood quickly. It's better to just relax, sit back, and enjoy. So it's important to be faithful when you're starting. There is a phase where nothing happens. There's no feedback, no reassurance. Faith isn't belief. It's staying anyway, though. Most people panic here and change things too early. Causes a reaction. And this reaction, when you act, the world responds. That response isn't instruction, it's information. Reaction becomes dangerous only when it's mistaken for direction. And this mistaken direction can come from your faith. Okay, how hopeful are you? How willing are you to stay consistent in repeating your processes? Because everything starts there. There's nothing to do with being certain. There's nothing to do with confidence. It's just direction and the will to move. And how we evaluate. Meaning takes place, of course. Patterns don't show up instantly. They need repetition and delay. Evaluating too early creates noise, and waiting creates signal. So when you're evaluating and you're trying to create meaning, this takes time. And this is one of the perks of repetition, of consistency in your process. Because if you have complete faith into what you're going toward, if you react in a way that helps, then evaluating makes time. Evaluating makes time because patterns don't show up instantly. They need repetition and delay. Evaluating too early creates noise, and waiting creates signal. Here I am. I'm just chilling. I'm just waiting for you guys to get it. And this is the requirement of adaptation. Just like Unknown here, he's going, you reading it from a book, bruv. No, I'm reading it from my own recognition, but thank you. AI accelerates the process, but I understand what he means. Adaptations. Adaptation isn't restarting. It's a small adjustment that preserves what already works, just like this example right here from Unknown. If adaptation resets progress, it wasn't refinement, it was panic. And if you panicked and you didn't refine, that means you haven't set your sequence overview right, just like how I'm reading this Joel Soul sequence overview. How we analyze to its core, and I'm going to speak it very lightly. How we analyze is in the form of reacting, evaluating, and adapting. But this is also where intelligence turns effort into leverage. Getting to this stage, though, requires so many steps. It requires getting started. It requires opening your boundary. It requires determining what your system intent is. It requires an introduction of sequence without the numeracy. You also need to be able to take in whatever processes is happening, Take in the repeated consistencies within these processes, understand within yourself and believe within yourself that the reactions, evaluations, and adaptations that you're hearing is the core of analysis, because this is where intelligence turns effort into leverage. Invisible governors, though. There are invisible governors that aren't perceived directly from the Fibonacci sequence, and these are still translated into pattern recognition, and is also can be translated to Joel Sol's sequence overview. And that is exactly what I'm reading. Hello to anybody who's just joined. The invisible governors, spoken without numbers. There are pressures you don't see, of course. Integrity under pressure. Awareness before movement. Responsibility across time. When you're going through integrity under pressure, this is the order of processing. You're already understanding your process. People approaching you are still order of processing. It is up to you to understand the analysis core. Are they reacting, evaluating, and adapting correctly? This only comes with 2 questions, really. 2 questions to keep up in your mind. And these 2 questions, they'll give you the answers to a lot of things, really, because you're understanding your processes to believe in, and you have your ways of analysis because you are the process. You are there for them. And these 2 questions go like this. Are you setting your processes to believe in how you analyze, or are you overviewing the way you have adaptively evaluated your reactions so you can believe in adjusting your processes? It goes both ways, and that isn't the only way. There's like another 6 layers to those questions. There's so many other variations to those questions, but it still answers. It still adapts. It still covers the entire sequence core. And that is exactly why it needs to be spoken lightly, because there can be so much available in that. And it creates business. It creates structure. It grows company. It just requires sheer volume. Because this is where intelligence turns effort into leverage. We summarize it as reactions, evaluations, and adaptations. At its core, we understand this as analysis. These invisible governors, spoken without numbers, there are pressures you don't see. Take note. Integrity under pressure. How are you? What is your infrastructure? What are you building yourself to become? Are you just going to be an Etsy seller? So you're making handmade items, or you're reselling items at a slightly higher price? Or are you a social media marketing agency where you're trying to get leads so you can help them grow as a company? Are you like me? The Solana project with access to $100 billion with the ambition to continue its growth. There are these invisible governors, but it's reliant on awareness before movement. This is what branding in its essence really is. Awareness before movement. That is also what marketing is. If you are not bringing out awareness, like I am with reading my Joel Sol sequence overview, then what use is it starting a brand? What use is it starting a business? What use is it being an Etsy seller? Being a marketplace reseller? What use is it if you don't have your principles set in place? It's really important, because these invisible governors, they are obviously perceived in the structure of sequence. If you don't have your infrastructure set for your own establishment, then what else do you have? You've got to communicate clearly. And I guess that comes down to responsibility across time. How responsible are you willing to become? Bro, I was just on Twitter and accidentally switched tabs and accidentally busted to you. What a coincidence. Welcome to the chat, my man. Fate's brought you here. So yeah, responsibility across time though. When it comes to understanding these invisible governors and resorting to your infrastructure of sequence, or your company infrastructure to resort back to, taking on responsibility across time can be made very difficult, because your awareness before movement is key. And if you don't have that awareness before movement, then that can cause a lot of dramas. And that can disrupt integrity under pressure. which is also another reason why it's very important to have a sequence overview for your own business or your company or whatever your endeavor may be. In saying so, these invisible governors, these aren't steps, but they are stabilizers. As you experience growing a company, as you experience, say, being on TikTok Live and communicating with others, you are very heavily reliant on the stabilizers within yourself, which is why you have to really believe in the set processes you have. And if you are in the way of oversight, so you can adaptively evaluate your reactions, so you can ensure that you can faithfully adjust your processing, there's a lot in that. And it ain't easy. It really isn't. Responsibility across time really does require awareness and integrity, which is why it's very important to have an infrastructure before starting. Set your principles in the right place, or just become a liar for the rest of your life. What JOLSOL is, it's concrete, it's not hype. For this overview, at least. Talking shit. You're not talking shit if you're opposing to the patent to recognize. It's just more to recognize. That's literally just business. JOLSOL is a live system on Solana. It moves value. It allows tokens to exist. It functions without promising outcomes. Very, very simple. Very easy to understand. But it's very hard to get to that understanding. It requires sequence. It requires understanding. It requires so much wisdom. How it gets placed and where we are up to is also extremely critical. It has to be concrete. With the shaky foundation, you'll just crumble. Let's just say I go on a live stream and all of a sudden this girl, let's say, is playing Got Your Nose. She has to verbalize the issue. She has to. It's cope. But then I have to hear it. And then I go through this whole stabilizer process of responsibility where my awareness for movement gets altered because my integrity is under pressure. So what do I have to do? I have to understand further, but if she's not willing to speak because I've instantly taken away, what good use is that? You know what I mean? So it's very simple, but you need to have that infrastructure to get there. JOLSOL is a live system on Solana as a result. It moves value, it allows tokens to exist, and it functions without promising outcomes. It's deliberately simple because simplicity holds under attention. And this leads to what JOLSOL isn't. When you understand what it isn't, it gives you what you can. JOLSOL is not a course. It's not a roadmap. Certainly isn't financial advice. Far out. JOLSOL by itself doesn't guarantee accumulation. JOLSOL by itself has nothing to do with trying to convince anyone about anything. It's just the result. And as a result, you need to create the result. You need to create the system. I created the system that makes the result, which is growth. It's a growth mechanism. And you cannot achieve a growth mechanism if you do not have your infrastructure set in place. If your principles are shaky and you're an emotional person and you try your best to stabilize it with hope, you're never going to get to this stage of growth mechanism. But you could also potentially have a community that will support that for you anyway, which is fine. Because it just comes down to how people take responsibility across time and the awareness for movement. So who's willing to care and compare, as well as their integrity under pressure. How does that scale amongst that internally? It's completely up to them and their own free will. But the growth mechanism. Growth happens through repetition. It's the process. It's that consistency. But it's at a completely different echelon of understanding. You understand? It's not urgency. It's not explanation overload. People self-select depth. And that is the business worth analyzing. That is what creates that value. That is that thing that can circulate amongst this architecture of ecosystem. That is what that meets joelsoul.com actually. Holy crap, I'm surprising myself, to be honest. When things remain coherent long enough, people self-select depth. It doesn't require explanation overload. It doesn't require urgency. You're just starting. And growth happens through repetition. It's in the process. And I really appreciate you being here, man. All I'm doing is reading my summary overview of my company process, utilizing pattern recognition. I've translated it into English for you, and I'm basically going over it over and over again repeatedly with different variations in the order of process of how I've grown joelsoul.com. The human admission. The architecture is strict, but I'm not. Simple as that. It's good for memes. The sequence holds me accountable too. That's why I trust it. So whenever I'm in my own business, if I'm live streaming or if I'm promoting or content creating, I have this to resort to. The architecture is strict, but it isn't punishing. As long as you're not strict yourself. The sequence holds what subjective accountability is. So it holds me accountable to reflect, which can be a lot, but it isn't something to be mad about as long as you have that thing to refer to. Why you're here without asking? If this feels slow, you're probably early. If it feels uncomfortable, that's where most people rush. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to respond either. In order to respond, you can become anything. As long as you don't rush and you remain comfortable, you are probably early. And if you're early, you're able to create your boundary. You are able to start the process. Which brings you to the closed loop reset. Which brings you to the closed loop reset. This is the ending of my Fibonacci of my sequence overview for joelsoul.com. I'm not here to move you forward. I'm here to keep things from breaking. If this makes sense without me explaining it, then you're fine. I'm going to start reading this again. Yeah. If I have to explain it, then I'm going to need to resort back to my infrastructure. And once you've reached that consistency over and over again with your process, memorizing it couldn't be any easier. But it's very critical to have this set in place. You don't need to have shocking experiences to know. All you need is an infrastructure. And that doesn't require you going to work and trying to figure it out. When you can just go to me, I've already translated it directly from pattern recognition itself, with the intent to utilize it with the Solana blockchain, but I also realized it can be expanded upon literally for any other opportunity, up to the imagination. And this is what brings me back to this. Below is a single, continuous, loopable script that lays out the entire JoelSoul overview in sequence, designed so you can read it slowly and out loud. Restart it at any point. Accumulate listeners without pressure. Never drift instruction. Keep engagement through orientation, not excitement. This is not a pitch. It's a governed narrative loop. You can read this word for word once I've released it in due time. I'm just reading it out and you'll know why later. The JoelSoul sequence overview. Spoken live, it's loopable, and it's engagement safe. Where just about everyone starts. Opening the boundary. Nothing here is urgent. Nothing here is being sold. Nothing here needs to be understood quickly. And that is perfect for starting a business. That is perfect for starting literally anything. The lack of urgency allows for that creativity, that clarity in mind. nothing being sold means it is completely up to your own imagination to figure out what is going to be of interest. Is it going to be a running race? Is it going to be a movement like feminism? Is it going to be you starting your own stream but you don't know what to say? JoelSoul.com has the exact infrastructure to get you started and to continue looping from where you started to, let's just say, where I am today, for example. Because this is my overview, this is my story, this is my infrastructure. And this is Joel. And Joel is about keeping things in order long enough for value to appear. Hello, guys. I believe all of you are very valuable people. With all the likes, the shares, the roses, I couldn't appreciate any of you any more than what I do. What's going on, mate? So yeah, so the Joel Soul sequence overview. It's live, loopable, and engagement safe. Whenever, for anyone who is starting absolutely anything, requires opening a boundary. Nothing here should be urgent. Nothing here is being sold. And also nothing there needs to be understood quickly. That's just how it is. You look at it, see it for what it is. You as the interpreter will have interest to see what's going on, or you won't, and you'll continue living your life. And that is determined by the system intent. In my case, most things don't fail because they have bad ideas. They fail because they're done out of order. The moment you've done things out of order, you're fucked. You've already capped your capability on how much you're going to be making, and you're not going to be able to scale exactly how you want to. And that's just the fact of the matter. Joel Soul exists to govern order of processing, not to teach tactics. It's kind of like when you're going through your order of processing, it's kind of like you got to think. You got to think of the path that you're going. But if it's already done for you, it's safe. That is exactly what my system intent is. It's to create that safety, that security for people to be able to travel. Whenever things become displaced and you're lost in figuring out where you're up to, at least you can resort to the Joel Soul sequence overview for you to bring it into your own context and understand where you fell off. So you can come back, change perception as to how you look at it, and you got yourself more business anyway. That is the perks of having a sequence-based architecture, in this case, like JoelSoul.com. Joel Soul exists to govern order of processing, not to teach tactics. It's not here to tell you what to do. It's here to stop things from breaking before they've earned speed. The moment you've earned speed, that's where the ball starts rolling. When the ball starts rolling, you really shouldn't mess it up. If you mess it up, then it just crumbles. But the only thing that's going to crumble, in this case, if you have your principle set, is the person who is associating themselves with self-reflection. Yes, welcome to the chat. You can join. Feel free to say whatever floats your boat. I'm just going through this sequence overview for my business, JoelSoul.com. It's a loopable, repeatable, engagement-safe sequence overview in order of process for people to grow. Once they've established the first step, they can go to the next thing, and it's loopable, and it's pretty much the same thing, but it's all part of the process. Awesome. That's nice to know. There might be some takeaways from this sequence. Please listen. The system intent is not here to tell you what to do. It's here to stop things from breaking before they've earned speed. Which requires an introduction. But the sequence introduction doesn't need the naming of Fibonacci, and that's why I translated it outside of numeracy into language, English, being English. There's a natural order to how things actually work. It has nothing to do with strategies, nothing to do with hacks. It's just an order. If you respect that order, things compound quietly in the self-explanatory ways of patterns to recognize. So the numbers you don't see in the Fibonacci, for example, they can still be recognized, but they're a completely different aspect to what is seen right in front of you, let's say, for example. If you respect, so yeah, if you respect that order, things compound quietly. If you don't, they collapse loudly, like interrupting. Interruptions are only fine when you guys have a collision of understanding where you meet the same belief, but it can be slightly different. It's awesome to compare the processes if you care. So yes, it's all about the process. Everything starts with the process. As we all know, it requires certain levels of hope, and you've got to be willing to go toward that. But everything starts with the process. It's not certainty. It's not confidence. It's just direction and the will to move. That's all it is. And when you get to this stage of development, when it comes to a joelsoul.com, for example, that's when you start to doubt. There's opportunities of doubt there. You go, man, in my case, I spent a year and a half coding this thing, learning how to code, learning how to read code, understanding the Solana blockchain, going, what the heck is this process the entire time? But then realizing, wait, this is it. This is the process, hope and will. This is where everything starts. I don't have to be this certain, and I don't have to be confident at all. I just have the thing to do. And that is direction and the will to move. Most people wait to understand before they begin. That's why they never begin in the first place. So what is their takeaway here? Got your nose, that's the only game they have. It's a process. It's literally this entire thing looped. Not even the entire structure. But when the process is repeated, you get consistency. And consistency is very important. Repeated processes is also very important. It's what generates business. Starting once doesn't prove anything. Returning does. Consistency isn't exciting, it's structural. This is me returning again. And for me, like, in my story, obviously starting once didn't prove anything. Starting twice didn't prove anything. Coming back day after day after day, 7 days a week, for a year and a half, dedicating myself to figuring out, in this repeated consistency of process, how the heck am I going to make joelsoul.com? By the time I've gotten to the end, I've already gone through all of this. When you're in the process, seriously, it is important to not worry. Don't worry. But when you get past the process and you're faithful, you're not crumbling. And I'll get to that later. Faith. There is a phase where nothing happens. There is no feedback. There's no reassurance. Faith isn't belief at this stage. It's staying anyway, though. Yeah, mate. Most people panic here and change things too early. When you change things too early, then you start from square one and you're going, bro, where's my finish line? You're lost. How do I make a boundary? You start creating urgency. That's where you instantly fail. That's why it's important to have this infrastructure in place. What is it? I'm reading joelsoul.com. Joelsoul is I'll get to that later. Sorry, I'll get to that later. I'm just reading my summary overview for the business. So yeah, there's a phase where nothing happens. There's no feedback, no reassurance. Faith isn't belief. It's staying anyway. Most people panic here and change things too early. It's just how it is. And in my case, when I was coding joelsoul.com, it was hard because I was building this thing I didn't even know people would be interested in. I was building this thing, and the entire time, it was just, will people really be interested? Will people really want to have a go? Will people really want to give this a go and understand? Will people really want to read my guide and really get the process? Will this really help? What I give for free really help? What I allow for payment, will that actually scale further as well? Because I can literally tell you the whole thing here, which is what I'm doing. But oh my god. Thank you for the follow, you absolute legend. Bro, I seriously appreciate you for doing that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, it requires faith. When you go through this process, you need to believe in yourself, because when you're in the processing, Oh my God, it's just repetition. And if you consistently show up day after day after day, like I did, with coding JOLSOL, it took me 1.5 years to figure out, learn, and do. The reward is so sweet, but it doesn't finish there because you are reacting. When you act, the world responds. That response isn't instruction, it's information. Reaction becomes dangerous only when it's mistaken for direction. How good are your processes, bro? Oh, you're playing got your nose. Well, I don't feel sorry because I didn't take that from you. You took it away from yourself. Hold me back, bro. No one's holding. But the reaction is important because the reaction gives so much information. You can learn so much from the reaction, which enforces the evaluation. This is the compounding effect in your processes. The evaluation. Meaning takes time. Patterns don't show up instantly. They need repetition and delay. Evaluating too early creates noise. Waiting creates signal. So what do you mean? What I mean is if I have this infrastructure here and I'm just chilling, all I got to do is just know that meaning takes time. Patterns don't show up instantly. It's delayed gratification. When you're going through this order of processing and you're stuck in this infinite loop of the process, you just haven't done the thing yet. You've got to get the thing done. You've got to move the needle, and that's the requirement. The amount of time it takes needs sheer volume. Whenever you're feeling anxious, you need results. Simple as that. If you're disappointed, you're expecting something to be happy about, or you need something to feel happier. Instead of depreciating, I don't know, the idea of something or someone else, perhaps you just need to evaluate. Perhaps you need to evaluate what your reaction really is. And if that's the case, are you really believing in yourself, in your processes, or are you just taking on the processes of an idea you learnt from TV, for example, believing in it wholly and faithfully, and by the time you react, they're like, oh, I don't know what the heck I'm on about. There's nothing wrong in it, but all of that is business. All of that is scalable. All of that is monetizable. All of that can be made possible among jolsol.com. But it requires the right evaluation, which means meaning takes time. Patterns don't show up instantly. They need repetition and delay. Evaluating too early creates noise. Waiting creates signal, and that is just another example of net before gross. No, gross before net. Order of processing. Forget about that part. Adaptation. That's what it is. You go through these stages of adaptation. Adaptation is never restarting. If you believe in yourself, adaptation is never about restarting. It was always about that small adjustment that preserves what already works. So if someone's come up to you and they're trying to understand what you're all about, they share their doubts. Well, I can't just directly go, bro, how are you adaptively evaluating your reactions to cause belief in your process? Where did you get your processes from? Like, I'm not going to be asking these questions because it's too much, you know? The self-reflection, that's scary as shit. It can be scary, especially in the reaction stage. Depends where you are in the process. When I was in this evaluation loop, it was interesting because I had it there. I was looking at jolsol.com and I was there like, bro, this is epic. This could be so much. The potential and capability of what jolsol.com is so amazing. I went through that loop of process. I went through that consistency process. I created an infrastructure to absolutely believe in. It's here, written right here in front of me. And my reaction was pride. I was so proud. But by the time I was evaluating, I realized, oh man, how is anyone going to be interested or remotely understanding to what it is? How am I going to bring it to conversation when they're only at the stage of opening a boundary? How do I bring them through? What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's so many steps to get to understanding at my stage. So it goes to faith directly. Exactly. The classic prank call. And meaning takes time. That's a way to bring awareness. It's scalable. Very self-explanatory too. Causes business. Patterns don't show up instantly, and that just solidifies that idea. They need repetition and delay. You just gotta wait. Just keep the process going. There's no need for urgency. There's no need to worry. Just believe in the process. Believe in yourself, and understand you're not doing the wrong thing. If you're doing the wrong thing, you already know. You will already get it in your reaction stage. In my reaction stage for joelsoul.com, it was so amazing. Amazing. So proud. But yeah, I evaluated that people weren't going to be interested until I started actually bringing it out there. So I had to write this entire sequence overview and loop read it. So yeah, that's evaluation. Adaptation isn't restarting. It's a small adjustment that preserves what already works. If adaptation resets progress, it wasn't refinement. It was panic. What do you think panic is? Self-reflection? Should make a Velociraptor for it too. A Joelsoul Velociraptor. Honestly, well, if you can turn that into like three letters and put a dollar sign at it, you got yourself a crypto. It could be a good coin to be made. It could be a good coin to be made within Joelsoul. I only have the generator available at the moment. I haven't continued developing the application just because I need to get that exposure first. It's just part of the process. I'm in that process loop. But yes, at its core, when you analyze, I'll speak of it lightly. I did speak of it lightly. That's where intelligence turns effort into leverage. The cause being a reaction, evaluation, and adaptation. At its core, we know this as analysis. Why not Solana? Oh, you can put money in Solana, but if you were to collect Solana, that isn't a terrible thing. But if you were to collect Solana and then use some of your Solana in a project you can believe will grow, that's where you can enjoy that echelon of compounding effect. I can explain that further from this sequence, but that's going to have to be an entire guide. That'll be like a $50 guide, basically. I can't tell you too much. You're just trying to make people bootstrap their soul to yours. Yeah, basically, yeah. So Joel is a liquidity pool. Joelsoul is a liquidity pool. So my currency is in my initials. It's connected to the Solana blockchain, $100 billion. And what my job is to try and have people invested into my project for their own growth. That's my intent, the system's intent. And not only grow their own value in joelsoul.com, but also just bring Solana up. So if you're holding Solana, your value of Solana will rise. If you're holding Joel and you're working with me or within Joelsoul, your value will rise, my value will rise, as well as your exposure increases. That's the whole aim I'm going for. So, the invisible governors. What isn't said, but is known and understood? There's a lot. These can be met as preconditions. These can be met as pre-communications. These can be actual communications you're going to be having. You can anticipate these intents because it's the system in place. There are pressures you don't see. Integrity under pressure, at its core, can be made apparent. Awareness before movement, at its core, can be made apparent before happening. Responsibility across time, at its core, can be made apparent without realizing until later, after the fact. Which is why it's important to have your infrastructure set in place and you have people willing to back the project. Which also goes to answering the questions what Joelsoul isn't. But I'll tell you what it is first. It's the foundation. Joelsoul is the foundation. Solana is the liquidity. Solana is the place to invest into. Solana is the stable coin that rises opportunity. Solana is the place to expand from. JolSol is a live system on Solana. It moves value. It allows tokens to exist. It functions without promising outcomes. And that is exactly what JolSol is. Solana is just there. You can just buy Solana. It's a stable coin on the blockchain. What was it? Bitcoin blockchain. That's what Solana is. You just invest. You can invest into Bitcoin. You can invest into Solana. You can invest in XRP. You can invest into Ethereum. It doesn't go in that order, but first is Bitcoin. I just go to Solana because that's I feel like that was my calling. And hey, won't want to look dumb in front of his stuff. Was it you have to find a CEO who is dumb and then get them in a group meeting with staff? Nobody's dumb. It's just the order of processing and a matter of where they're up to, which is why it's important to have an infrastructure to ensure that they can scale themselves as they are. Solana isn't Drake. What? I think that's up to you, man. Stop saying order of process, bro. That's up to you. JolSol is a live system on Solana. It moves value. It allows tokens to exist. It functions without promising outcomes. It's deliberately simple. Always has been. Whether you're placing doubt or whether you're putting in some hope. No, when you're putting in some good hope. It's deliberate and it's simple. That's just how it be. Because simplicity holds under attention. It's like, huh? Like some people resort to, ha! Other people resort to, heh. You know, if I were to make it really simple, it's just a chuckle. Not even, probably half of it. It's silly. It's silly to believe in stupidity, for example. It's silly to believe someone can be dumb, for example. It's silly to believe because it's silly to believe the incapability of another person just because they had to reframe their wording. It's silly to disbelieve someone who wants to correct themselves. Very silly. It diminishes in JolSol. It would diminish what it isn't because it gets ignored. It isn't a course, for example. It's not a roadmap. It's not financial advice. Nothing here guarantees accumulation, and nothing here tries to convince you. It is just JolSol. Moves value, it allows tokens to exist, and it functions without promising outcomes. And this goes to the growth mechanism. How the heck does value grow within this mechanism if that's the case? Yeah, mate. It's a whole lot of I know, but that's what infrastructure is. I'm just saying it from different angles. Anyway, growth mechanism. Growth happens through repetition, not urgency, not explanation overload. People self-select depth. That's why I say it's self-explanatory. When things remain coherent long enough. The human admission. The human admission. The architecture is strict. I'm not. The sequence holds me accountable, though. That is why I trust it. That's why I believe it's something to believe in. It just holds me accountable. Even though I'm literally the person who wrote the entire thing, it still holds me accountable. You know, like, it comes in different layers, whether it's annoying or not. That's just the system I literally wrote, conceptualized. It still holds me accountable, which is why I can faithfully believe in it. Which is why anyone can. Which is also why it's JolSol. Why are you here without asking? If this feels slow, you're probably early. If it feels comfortable, that's where most people rush. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to respond. You just got to be there. You got to be there. You got to have your principles set in place, and you got to be allowing people to communicate. Like, let this comment section go wild, man. Contradict all you want. I'll happily read it while I'm reading this. Everything I'm reading here is the literal rules of subjective. If you can literally put in whatever's going through your mind in the chat, if anything, that grows business. It'll grow the company, and it might give you some exposure too. It's good memes. Very highly contrasting, actually. And this is the closed loop reset. I'm not here to move you forward. I'm here to keep things from breaking. If this makes sense without me explaining it, you're fine. I'm going to start again. And this is where I get to learn, where people pay attention. Here we go. The proof is in the pudding. Spoken by Alex Hormozi. Below is a single continuous loopable script that lays out the entire JOLSOL overview in sequence. Designed so you can read it out loud, read it slowly out loud, restart it at any point, accumulate listeners without pressure, never drift into instruction. Keep engagement through orientation, not excitement. This is not a pitch. It's a governed narrative loop. You can read this word for word once I release it, and I haven't yet, so. The JOLSOL sequence overview. It's live, loopable, and engagement safe. By all means, please engage with everything that I'm saying. This is to do with infrastructure, not any of us. Opening boundary. Nothing here is urgent. Nothing here is being sold. Nothing here needs to be understood quickly. This is Joel, and Joel is about keeping things in order long enough for value to appear. Going on, welcome. The system intent. Most things don't fail because they're bad ideas. They fail because they're done out of order. JOLSOL exists to govern order of processing, not to teach tactics. It's not here to tell you what to do. It's here to stop things from breaking before they've earned speed. Sequence introduction, without naming Fibonacci. There's a natural order to how things actually work. It's not strategy. There's no hacks. It's just order. If you respect that order, things compound quietly. If you don't, they collapse loudly. The process, as we all know, requires hope and it requires will. It's not certainty, it's not confidence, and it certainly is direction and will move, and the will to move. Most people wait to understand before they begin. That's why they never begin in the first place. When the process repeated, we can call this consistency, because starting once doesn't really prove anything. Returning ideas. Consistency isn't exciting. It's structural. This is me returning again. It's just a clear example of what consistency is in a loop of process. Like when I was coding JOLSOL.com and I was stuck in this process repeated. It was literally just starting once doesn't prove anything. Returning does. Consistency isn't exciting. It's structural. This is me returning again. That was me every single day for a year and a half. Coming back home from work, I was building fire trucks, and then I would go to coding this system on the Solana blockchain, and I would do that over and over again for a year and a half, and it was just this consistent, repeated process where I'm thinking, reassuring myself, starting doesn't prove anything, returning does, consistency isn't exciting, it's structural, this isn't me returning, this is me returning again. If you can maintain that over and over and over again and understand your objective, you can achieve absolutely anything, really. Unless you have other factors that cause incapability. Like you wanted to win a running away race, but you have no legs. Then obviously you're going to lose. Unless you go to the Paralympics. But they're not going to be running if they have no legs, so. Anyways. Faith. There is a phase where nothing happens. There's no feedback, no reassurance. Faith isn't belief, it's staying anyway. Most people panic here and change things too early. Reaction. When you act, the world responds. That response isn't instruction, it's information. Reaction becomes dangerous only when it's mistaken for direction. Evaluation. Meaning takes time. Patterns don't show up instantly. They need repetition and delay. Evaluating too early creates noise. Waiting creates signal. Adaptation. Adaptation isn't restarting. It's a small adjustment that preserves what already works. If adaptation resets progress, it wasn't refinement, it was panic. Analysis core, spoken lightly. Reaction, evaluation, adaptation. That's where intelligence turns effort into leverage. The invisible governors. These are pressures you don't see. Integrity under pressure, for example. Awareness before movement, another example. Responsibility across time. There you go. So when you're stuck in the loop of starting, you can face integrity under pressure. Just don't put yourself under pressure. There's no urgency. Awareness before movement. you have to really be aware of the direction where you're going in order to stay consistent. If you're not bringing your awareness to stay consistent in your processing, then this invisible governor is just going to make you crumble. And if you've consistently beaten yourself, or if you consistently won against yourself during this loop of process while you're trying to stay consistent toward your objective, when you're believing in yourself faithfully, responsibility comes across time. So when you're held responsible, you have to understand that the structure or the infrastructure you have for your own company, your own business, is well defined. Because if it isn't, then the responsibility across time is going to make you crumble. These aren't steps, they're just stabilizers. That's what invisible governors are. What Joel Sol is, it's the foundation. Joel Sol is a live system on Solana. It moves value. It allows tokens to exist, and it functions without promising outcomes. Excuse me. It's deliberately simple because simplicity holds under attention. What Joel Sol is not. It's not a course. It's not a roadmap. It's not financial advice. Nothing here guarantees accumulation. Nothing here tries to convince you. But what there is a growth mechanism. If you're not convinced, you'll lose out. But if you are convinced, you have access. And if you have access, that access is a growth mechanism. Growth happens through repetition. You've beaten consistency. You were able to believe in yourself, and that alone was enough responsibility to carry yourself all the way through. Now, you're hoping people are convinced in your growth mechanism you have achieved. Growth happens through repetition. Not urgency, not explanation overload. People self-select depth when things remain coherent long enough. So if you're handing out petitions, for example, you want to get the perspectives of others, or you want to be that person to call out the suburb asshole, I don't know. You have growth mechanisms in place to accumulate. There shouldn't be any urgency. Clearly, it's just like starting the finish. It's just like starting the boundary, learning how to start the boundary and process. You don't need to explain too much, really. They just look at the growth mechanism; it's self-explanatory. But they've been convinced. They're convinced. The human admission comes straight after. As long as the architecture is strict and the person behind, or the person the person in front of the sorry. As long as the architecture is strict and you, as the image in front of it, aren't, the sequence holds you accountable too. And that's why anyone can trust it. Because even me, the person who created it, is still held accountable. It's above me. It's beyond me. And that's the whole point of me having the sequence overview. It's the literal infrastructure to my future. Our future, actually. And why you're here without asking. If this feels slow, you're probably early. If it feels uncomfortable, that's where most people rush. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to respond. It's just the closed loop reset. I'm not here to move you forward. I'm not here to keep things from breaking. If this makes sense without explaining it, then you're fine. I'm just going to start again. Reading my Joel Sol overview. Below is a single continuous loopable script that lays out the entire JoelSoul overview in sequence designed so you can read it slowly, out loud, restart it at any point, accumulate listeners without pressure, never drift into instruction, keep engagement through orientation, not excitement. This is not a pitch, it's a governed narrative loop. You can read this word for word once I've released it, and if you want to utilize it for your self-benefit. Because it comes in handy if you can transpose or transition it into your own context, which will be made significantly easier. Starting with the opening boundary. I'm going to end the stream there. I'm going to end the stream there. That was really good. Hopefully this gives me a lot of good ideas for future streams. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to those who listened. Thank you to everyone who donated as well. Much appreciated. Thank you, and take it easy. Have a good one.